Calls for a bailout of the drought-stricken farmers in southwestern Queensland and northern New South Wales. The Agriculture Minister Barnaby Joyce joins us now on the phone from Tamworth. Mr Joyce, good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You've just come back from this tour in the region, or been undoubtedly still on it. How dire, how bad is the situation on the ground in that part of Australia?
Well, Michael, it's basically like they missed the crop, missed the season, and they're missing another one, and they're possibly looking at a third. And it'd be, for your listeners, it's like saying, well, we'll pay you your wages, no worries about that. About 3 months after it rains next, and it hasn't rained for the last few years.
And what are the consequences if the rain doesn't come? How distressed are many of these farmers you've been speaking to?
Well, they're up to the gunnels in debt. They're basically the capacity to get to the bank is becoming limited. Obviously, stock get to a position, Michael, where they're too weak to transport. You can't transport weak stock. You're not allowed to. And then the person says, well, I haven't got the money to feed them. I'm running out of water. I can't transport them and no one can buy them, so I have to shoot them. And of course, that really takes people into a bad space. People who are cropping, well, they're saying, well, it hasn't rained now, so it should be green as a leek in a lot of areas. There should be showers coming across. Everyone was hoping and praying maybe a cyclone would come in. We'd be able to get what they call a profile of moisture so you can plant on it, because you don't want to die at the casino by just planting dry. And seeing the ground's dry as chip, they know that they haven't got a winter crop, and they're just asking the very obvious question, well, I'm out. How do we deal with this? And then we say, oh, well, they'll just have to sell up. Oh, then we've got to ask the question, well, who's going to buy, and what happens to the price of real estate when everybody is trying to sell or being forced to sell? It collapses in on itself.
The farmers have been asking you, therefore, for some form of federal government assistance. You're lent a very obviously sympathetic ear to them. How much will you be approaching your cabinet colleagues for when it comes to assistance for these farmers?
Well, I mean, you always have to explain to people, because they think that you can unilaterally just change things. They say, oh, the Ag Minister's here, therefore, he'll just decree and make things different. And he can't do that. You've got to advise them that there is a process that you have to go through. Once it involves a new policy or new money, I don't have the authority unilaterally to do that. But you can't also preempt Cabinet. You can't go out and say, well, this is what I'm going to take to Cabinet. So it's not being evasive, but you've got to sort of follow the rules a bit about how you go through this process. But I'm sure that logical people look at things, and we're dealing with not a multinational company or a company with billions of dollars put aside, or people with hundreds of millions of dollars of profit. We're dealing with people who basically are mum and dads on a property. They have had a crack at it themselves for a couple of years, but it's obviously getting to the end. They've either got a crop they can't put in after years, a couple of years of it, or they've got cattle that they can't sell, and that comes on the back of what was some bad prices by reason of the demise of the live cattle trade, even though the live cattle trade now is up and running and going very well up in the Northern Territory.
Obviously, you make a very persuasive case for government help. You'd be disappointed if there wasn't that cabinet support for the proposal you'll put to them? Well,
I don't know exactly what is the proposal that I'll put to them yet, to be honest with you. I mean, we're still sort of formulating that, I don't want to forfeit the chance of something being successful by sort of pre-announcing it. I've got a pretty good idea what people are asking for, and I've been sort of open to what they're asking for. Basically, in their heart of hearts, I'd like interest rate subsidy back, but the cost of that is pretty exceptional, and it's in our current budgetary conditions, it's extremely difficult. It would be much easier some years ago, but it's not there now. But I acknowledge we don't go around the countryside on a jolly. We go around because we want to try and do something to help. And naturally enough, if you're going around place to place to place over a number of months, you do it because you envisage coming up with something to help them.
Now, this comes, of course, against the backdrop of Cabinet's decision last week to reject that proposed $25 million financial assistance package for SBC at Mono. Firstly, I wanted to ask you, Barnaby Joyce, for your view on that. Were you happy with what Cabinet decided?
Well, I can understand, clearly the logic when someone says you have a large company worth, $7 billion. They've made in excess of $200 million in profit, I think, in 6 months. We have to borrow the money, and they actually have the money. Now, I understand that argument clearly. I always see these things through the eyes of the people they affect, though. They're the farmers and also the factory workers. And what I think is terribly important is no decision has yet been made to close SPC at Mona, and we shouldn't antagonise them or prompt them in that direction. I think that decision is around about the 18th of February, and I hope dearly that SPC at Mona stays open. I think it would be a good business decision to do that because the dollar is falling and there is a large demand for our product in Asia. And all businesses have cycles where certain parts of your business are going well and certain are not. And I think the cycle is turning for this section of the business, and let's hope that is the case.
But are you worried, given the decision on SPC at Mona, that you're taking whatever your proposal is to Cabinet in the context of people like the Treasurer Joe Hockey taking a very hardline stance against any form of industry assistance?
Well, I don't want to diminish the position of SPC at Mona. That's not the purpose. But these people are in a completely different position. We're talking about mum and dads on farms, which after a number of years, they have tried to make their own way with their own money. They have to deal with the vagaries of the climate, which you and I don't have to deal with. That is, we have the expectation at the end of the week or the end of the month that we will get paid our wage. These people only get paid if they produce something off their land. And I think these are two different scenarios. I'm not talking to myriads of large companies with large cash flows that can be attained on a regular basis from people buying a product from a fridge. These are people who make the money when the cattle go to market after they've been fattened after rain, or make their money by taking a crop off after it's rained and after a period of time of tending to the crop. It is not companies. We're talking about families. They're two different kettle of fish.
And just finally and briefly, while I've got you, Minister, a lot of these farmers rely on the ABC almost exclusively for the source of their news in country areas. As you'd well know, being a man of the land, there has been a lot of debate, as you also know, about the ABC in recent weeks. What's your view of where the ABC stands in Australia's media life?
Well, obviously in regional Australia, we basically, the ABC is the clock you wake up to. And so they always, we sometimes are bitterly disappointed by what they say, but like my father, he would spend his whole day listening to the ABC, then raging against it and saying, where he disagreed. But if you tried to get him to change to another channel, he never would, because I think that everyone always looks for, the content, the tabulated data, the research that goes behind things, and I support the ABC quite naturally, but I think that it's fair enough that in every essence of government, if you can do the same job but save money along the way on how you do it, then you have to examine that. That's what any family would do. That's what any business would do. And I think that's quite different to saying, well, we're going to save money by closing something down. It's a case of look into your business and really ask yourself the question, is there a way that we could do this that could save money so somebody else will definitely keep their job? Because we can't, if we don't do that, you do end up forcing yourself into a position where, your hand is taken away from you, and then people lose their job by reason that someone a few years ago didn't do the job more efficiently.